on television, Inside Nigeria, your breakfast show where we review some headline stories on some select newspapers. My name is Winifred Ubebo, and it's a pleasure to be hosting you on today's edition. We have papers in our menu for review this morning, and of course, we have Nigeria's most influential newspaper, Leadership, Daily Sun, The Guardian, The Punch, This Day, and Vanguard newspapers, all for your review this morning. As we like to do on the program, we'll start off with Nigeria's most influential leadership. Leadership newspaper says disobedience of court. CSOs, lawyers call for labor leaders arrest. Disobedience of court. CSOs, like civil society organizations, lawyers call for labor leaders arrest. Court order affront on workers' rights. Say union leaders are strike grants Nigeria. Electricity workers join action today. Ajero holds 4 national warning strikes in 9 months. This is the leading story on the cover of Leadership today, Wednesday, 15 November 2023. Beside that, we have 20 million Nigerians in diaspora remit $24 billion yearly, federal government. Rwanda signs $800 million loan at intra-African trade fair. Petrol queues return to Abuja as price disparity heightens. Diabetes Day, 6 million Nigerians are diabetic, say experts. The story continues on page 7 of Leadership, and of course we move ahead to other stories. CBN Ways and Means fueled inflation, weakened Naira, Sanusi, that is the former CBN governor. The story continues on page 7 of Leadership. And on the business box, we have poor services, 2.5 million mobile subscribers swap SIMs. Above the masthead, again, court stops Anyanwu from parading self as PDP scribe. Again, court stops Anyanwu from parading self as PDP scribe. Remi Tinubu donates 427 million naira to 1,709 widows, orphans. Remi Tinubu donates 427 million naira to 1,709 widows, orphans. The story continues on page 22 of Leadership. And with that, we move to the page 3 of the paper, where we have, as usual, our stand. Our stand today is still on police and VIP protection. Still on police and VIP protection. Of course, recently, President Tinubu orders the withdrawal of police escorts to VIPs. And of course, our stand today is on still on police and VIP protection. From that, I move to the back page of the paper, where we have Wednesday column with Aisha Osori. She's writing on can we measure election integrity? You'll find out more as you log on to the website of Leadership, www.leadership.ng. From Leadership, The Punch is next. The Punch says Ajero's alleged assault. Federal government knocks labor, strike records, partial compliance. Ajero's alleged assault. Federal government knocks labor, strike records, partial compliance. Tinubu not behind attack on Ajero, escalating strike nationwide, unreasonable, AGF office. Lagos, Rivers, Kwara, Bauchi workers shun labor. Kano, Edo, Delta, Akwa Ibom, others comply. Of course, we have the pictorials of the strike yesterday from Abuja and Lagos underneath that leading story on The Punch. 35 million naira needed to return body of Nigerian students, says ministry. Army arrest alleged cop killer, 14 suspects in Plateau. The story is on page 4 and 5 of The Punch. And of course, the stories above the masthead of The Punch say elections over, reform economy now, Mpan tells Tinubu. Elections over, reform economy now. That is Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, Mpan tells Tinubu. CBN extends old Naira notes deadline indefinitely. Atiku canvasses measure to oust APC. And these are the leading stories on The Punch today, Wednesday, November 15, 2023. For more on these Inside Stories editorial back page. Log on to the website of The Punch, www.punchng.com. We move right on to this day. This day has similar story on the strike we started yesterday. And it says NLC strike not about Ajero but against official impunity. NLC strike not about Ajero but against official impunity. Partial compliance recorded across country. Pro-democracy group accuses federal government of stifling opposition labor. Up above the leading story, we have IMPAN wants federal government to review policies on paper industry. IMPAN means Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria wants federal government to review policies on paper industry, urges Tinubu to provide succor for suffering Nigerians. Tinubu secures multi-billion-dollar funding facility for infrastructure development from Islamic Bank. Means IDB management says his government inherited serious liabilities. Bank to provide $50 billion new investments in Africa with Nigeria as major beneficiary. And the last story on the cover today says CBN old 100 naira, 200 naira, 1000 naira banknotes remain legal tender interminably. The story continues on page 11 of this day. Of course, there have been fears that there has been some states have been experiencing some cash crunch, especially in the northern states of Kano, Kaduna, and the CBN has come out to debunk it that no, old legal notes still remain legal tender interminably. So from this day, we have Daily Sun next on our menu, and Daily Sun still leads with similar story on the strike by NLC yesterday. It says strike, NLC records full partial compliance. NLC records full partial compliance. Government offices, courts, NAS, banks, others short. Action flops in some states. Public school students sent home. Train services suspended nationwide. ASU asks branch chairman to begin mobilization of members. Prioritize workers' rights over partisanship or Shomole. Of course, just like the Punch, we have pictures of the strike action yesterday at NAS underneath the leading story. And underneath that, we have second leading story on Daily Sun. It says article calls for merger of opposition parties, cautions against slide to one party state. Article calls for merger of opposition parties, cautions against slide to one party state. UNICEF commits $1 billion investment to combat adolescent crisis in Nigeria. The story is on page 28 of Daily Sun. And just by the side, we have Nigeria eyes multi-billion-dollar infrastructure funding from Islamic Development Bank. NUEE says despite 2 trillion naira government investment, sector still remains standstill. 6 review of Act 10 years after privatization. Airstrikes distresses illegal refining sites, 5 boats in rivers. Government adopt 15 in Benue. Vigilantes kill 4 bandits in Kebbi. Reps unveil legislative agenda, pledge to tackle unemployment, foster development. Nordic Nigeria Connect. CBN threatens to sanction illegal forest transactions. And the last story on the cover of Daily Sun today says old new naira notes remain legal tender. CBN. Old new naira notes remain legal tender. CBN rules out December 31 deadline. The story continues on page 20 of Daily Sun today. And for more on these inside stories, editorial and back page, log on to the website of Daily Sun, www.sunnynewsonline.com. And from that, we move over to the next paper on our menu, and that is The Guardian. Guardian's leading stories different, totally different from what the previous papers are leading with today. It says AMCON banks bailout. 1 year after takeover of Discos, darkness, liquidity crisis persists. AMCON banks bailout. 1 year after takeover of discos, darkness liquidity crisis persists. Again, SEC moves to reduce 190 billion naira unclaimed dividends. Zelensky accuses Russia of benefiting from Israel-Hamas war. Compliance defiance as NLC-TUC indefinite strike kicks off. Article 6 coalition of opposition parties cautions against slide to one-party dictatorship. Fortifying custodial centers to keep image safe. Deter would-be attackers. That's the news analysis on page 4 of The Guardian. Today, Wednesday, November 15, 2023. For continuation of these headline stories, Inside Stories, editorial back page, log on to the website of The Guardian, www.guardian.ng. From The Guardian, we move over to the last paper on our menu today, and which is the Vanguard newspaper. Vanguard's leading story says, we inherited serious liabilities. Tinubu says he won't give excuses, negotiates multi-million-dollar infrastructure funding package with Islamic Development Bank. We inherited serious liabilities. Tinubu says he won't give excuses, negotiates multi-million-dollar infrastructure funding package with Islamic Development Bank. That's Vanguard's leading story today. NLC-TUC nationwide strike records miscompliance in states. Nigeria needs fresh ideas, urgent restructuring to survive, says Edo State Governor Obaseki. Secondly, this story says federal government reps begin probe of visa cancellation of 264 Nigerians by Saudi Arabia. Federal government reps begin probe of visa cancellation of 264 Nigerians by Saudi Arabia. Mpan to federal government provides succor to ease suffering of Nigerians. And of course, in sports, we have full house as 22 players arrive Super Eagles camp. We move to the ones above the masthead, where we have Finance Minister unveils plans for $13 billion revenue from national assets. Stories on page 19 of Vanguard. WCC can to federal government address economic injustice, religious persecution. Oando secures $800 million Afrizim Bank commitment for assets acquisition. Nigeria must not slide into one-party dictatorship, says former Vice President Atiku. Well, viewers, these are the leading stories on Vanguard newspaper today, Wednesday, November 15, 2023. Unfortunately, we don't have a guest in the house to discuss some of these headline news, but same time, same station. Tomorrow, I'll be here with my Thursday guest. Don't forget to keep an appointment. I'm Winifred Bebo. See you then.